We have a reluctant candle here. Ah, good morning, friends. Welcome to Community Church of Boston. My name is Dean, and mostly I'm just an avid member of this church for a long time and just wanting to keep the flame alive. And let's say that's one reason that we light this candle this morning, to bring us together in warmth and in nourishment and in love. We light a candle every time we start. It's also sort of vaguely associated with the Unitarian Universalist chalice flame. We are on the list of Unitarian Universalist congregations, although we are officially called non-sectarian, non-creedal. Some people have called us other names as well. But really, we want to welcome you on such a cold day, and we thank all of you who braved the elements to be here in person, and we thank all of you who didn't brave the elements to be in your bed reading the paper and drinking coffee and seeing us on your laptop or your phone. That's fine. We're just fine with that as well. And she welcomes them with open arms. She says, "Let my people in. Shine on, oh you lady of the harbor." I sing that because it's in my brain. I sang it at an all-day conference on immigration last Saturday, and we're singing it again on Wednesday standout in Burlington in front of the ICE headquarters, and we're consumed with it. And the Lady of the Harbor is in New York, and both our presenters are coming to us from New York today. And I want to introduce our amazing musician, activist, longtime warrior for love and for sanity. I've loved her music for a long time, since I met her in the 80s in People's Music Network gatherings. Folks from Brooklyn, will you welcome to our humble stage Bev Grant. Unmute, please, Bev.
Okay. I'm unmuting and
Still can't hear you, Bev.
you can't hear me? That's interesting. I
It's far away.
check 1, 2.
Wait a
I'm unmuted.
You come
Maybe
across
way off
fine
in
on
the distance.
Zoom.
We'll try to fix it from this end.
Okay. Let me know when. I'll talk a little bit and you can let me know when you get a volume, because we had such a nice one before. It would be good to have that again. And I'm coming to you from my apartment in Brooklyn, where I've lived for about 48 years, which means I am rent stabilized, which in New York is almost unheard of. Could you hear me now? No? All right, you turned off the reverb. What else could you have done? I hear you. I am not turned off. What could have happened? I don't know that there's anything I can do here, because I didn't do anything to make this happen,
Yeah, don't worry about your end. It's
Okay,
in
well,
the
I don't want to
auditorium.
start singing if you can't hear it.
Yes, no, you're coming across fine on Zoom. I'm monitoring the Zoom, and but the
Oh, it's
problem
in
is
the
that
room.
locally in the auditorium, for some reason, the sound isn't set right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to sing a song called Swimming to the Other Side, which was written by a dear friend of mine, Pat Humphreys.
You might give him a couple more minutes to try to get it straight in the
Okay.
auditorium.
Yes, Bev, just go ahead. The sound is going out to the Zoom and the YouTube, so go ahead and play.
Okay.
We can only hear it here, but yes, Swimming to the Other Side.
Right. We are living beneath the Great Big Dipper, and please sing along if you catch on to the lyrics. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in this stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. I am alone, and I am searching, hungering for in my prime. I am balanced at the brink of wisdom. I'm impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection be my crime. In humility I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. And the chorus comes. We all live beneath the Great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are all swimming in this stream together, some in power, some in pain. But we can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feeling, finding intuition, my head, my heart. I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing to do my part. All of those who have come before me, band together, be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. We all live beneath the Great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in this stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share have been with us since life's beginnings, and we never noticed they were there. We can balance at the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. We all live beneath the Great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are all swimming in this stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev Grant. Thank you so much. My friend Randy Sabine is also a music partner, lives in St. Paul. And he sent me a picture on his Facebook page of him and 20,000 other domestic terrorists out in the streets. And this morning, I just happened to come across this poem. on the same topic. The author is named Michael Dubois, or Dubois, and it's called If They Call Me a Domestic Terrorist. If they gun me down in my own street someday, may my crime be compassion. May the record show from every angle that I was helping a woman up after they pushed her to the ground, that not even their weapons could stop me from extending my hand to those in need, that I was a walking example of the best my elders taught me, that everyone is equal and worthy of defending. If they tell the nation from the highest podium that I was a domestic terrorist, let it be known that my radical act was believing the best in people when they wanted nothing more than to divide us. Michael Dubois. Let me see, where? Here we go. I wrote a couple of things last night that I want to share with you. And in the middle of it is a poem that I will read, a very old poem. When it is bitter, nasty, cold is when I feel bitter, nasty, old. And you don't want to get out of bed, and that lingering cough and slight ache of head, and a world that is crying for relief from the scoundrels and thieves that would freeze it deep of its lifeblood and its essence of good. But we've braved the chill elements to be here together for our own kind of holy communion, to drink the sacred mud of Christ, the coffee Luis brewed this morning, to eat the sacred crust of Christ, the offerings of some nearby fine institutions of higher baking, the church of the Sunday brunch. I would love to do that someday, is just start with a brunch and then have church and sort of celebrate that as our coming together and breaking bread. We've never done that. We always have lunch afterwards. Anyway, wherever two or more are gathered is what the Bible says, and there's the Jewish notion of the minyan, which is the sort of critical mass, the quorum of the gathering. Anyway, the poem I want to read in memory and tribute to Eli Sussman is called The Vinegar Man, probably written in 1900 or so by a poet named Ruth Comfort Mitchell. The crazy old vinegar man is dead. He never had missed a day before. But somebody went to his tumble-down shed by the haunted house and forced the door. There in the litter of his pungent pans, the murky mess of his mixing place, deep, sticky spiders and empty cans with the same old frown on his sour old face. Vinegar, vinegar, vinegar man, face us and chase us and catch us if you can. Pepper for a tongue, pickle for a nose, stick a pin in him and vinegar flows. Glare at us, swear at us, catch us if you can. Ketchup and chow vinegar man. Nothing but recipes and worthless junk. Greasy old records of paid and dued, but down in the depths of a battered trunk, a queer, quaint valentine torn in two. Red hearts and arrows and silver lace, and a prim ladylike script that said, with dearest love, from Ellen to Ned. Steal us and peel us and drown us in brine, he pickles his heart in a valentine. Vinegar for blood, pepper for a tongue, stick a pin in him, and once he was young. Glare at us, swear at us, catch us if you can, with dearest love to the vinegar man. Dingy little books of profit and loss, died about Saturday, so they say, and a queer, quaint valentine torn across, torn, but it was never thrown away, with dearest love from Ellen to Ned. Old pepper tongue pickles his heart in brine. The vinegar man is long time dead. He died when he tore his valentine. We just lost our own vinegar man, Eli Sussman, for 40 years a member of our church. A little hunched over guy. I don't know, Amar, if we have the one photo I found. Yes, thank you. who had serious mental health issues, but whose parents had made arrangements for him to live independently until he died on Thanksgiving 2025, alone, barely able to get himself to a hospital, unable to grasp, because of his challenges, the basic concepts of politeness, gratitude, manners, just always by himself at church or in his little apartment. I, being the pastor of the aforementioned church, and counseled him over the years about his problems with the law, with other people, with libraries where he hung out, with his housing authority, with his medical caregivers. He was the saddest sack on the planet. Lived alone, died alone. But he did write a lot, and I'm trying to get the housing company who owns that housing complex to give me access to his apartment before it is vacated, to find those writings before everything is relegated to the dumpster. A mountain of books, CDs, DVDs, memorabilia of a life not well lived. I am haunted by this man. A survivor. He lived like this for 86 years, 45 years in the same apartment with a couple of stints in nursing homes where I visited him, but always managing to get back to his apartment. I am haunted by this man, the only one in the church who signed up twice to attend parole hearings with me in support of a prisoner, a lifer, a member of our congregation who is now free and doing very, very well. During those rides to the parole hearings, I found out a lot about Eli, including some distressing things, but mostly about his lifelong desire for an intimacy with people, especially women, that he never could achieve because of his mental health obstacles. And my takeaway here, reach out in whatever way you can to the vinegar people in your life. Maybe you can help them. Maybe we can help them or ease their pain in some way. Maybe some kindness from all of us will heal this world of its brokenness. I write this in the deep, frigid winter of 2026, in the deep darkness of the soul of the United States and its descent toward full fascism, comes this still small voice from this insignificant leader of this tiny church saying, let's take care of each other. Let's start with the vinegar people. Folks, we're 2 weeks away from another newsletter that our beloved Crystal Rollins Jackson is starting to prepare for us. And let me read some of the speakers. Rebecca Armstrong, the UU Reverend from Indiana, Shelley McGinnis and Steve Downs from the Coalition for Civil Freedoms, defends mostly Muslim defendants who have been targeted by the war on terror. Jerry Fialka, my friend from Venice, California, speaking on McLuhan. Greg Palast, remarkable longtime reporter, covers election issues. Also, we don't know exactly what he's speaking on, but he's recently did a documentary on the Cherokee people who got ripped off, that movie called The Flower Moon. He also has recently reported from Venezuela, and he did a remarkable interview with Hugo Chavez a long time ago, and more recently with Nicolas Maduro. Greg Palast, really interesting speaker. Catherine Power, I don't know if you know that name, but she was longtime underground from the 60s struggle against Vietnam. She will be with us. After that, a reschedule of Reggie Gibson, Massachusetts Poet Laureate. His program last week was canceled because of the snow, and we have him on April 5th. John Fabian Witt, I have a copy of his book here. He is a Yale history professor, and his book is called The Radical Fund, How a Band of Visionaries and $1 Million Upended America. And it's about sort of the funding in the early part of the 20th century, 1920 or so, of the ACLU and NAACP by this kind of anonymous donation that created this fund. And it's really interesting to us because our founders were deep involved in the founding of the ACLU as well. So that should be really interesting. We also have April 19th, Bill McKibben. It's going to be a joint endeavor between a whole bunch of different Back Bay churches, and it's going to be held at St. Paul's Cathedral with a procession before from the MLK Embrace sculpture all the way to the cathedral, and we'll have special music. Bill McKibben, and after that, Peter Del Tredici just retired from the Arnold Arboretum. Wonderful speakers on all kinds of topics: religion, politics, science, women's issues. Also, we have upcoming in that newsletter a series of Winter Friday concerts, which include Bill Burnett and Susie Williams. Former Susie used to be called Stormin' Norman and Susie, and Bill Burnett and she used to be married. Their music career survived a marriage. And they're still at it, and they're still as amazing as ever. They call themselves the Boners. After that, we had Laurie Diamond, Fred Abatelli, and Laurie's daughter Annalise, Mary Hugh Diamond, remarkable trio. After that, David Rovics. We might be hearing music from David, or we might be just talking about the fact that he has just been canceled from YouTube. Take that in. About 40 albums that David has recorded, suddenly removed from the biggest platform. And finally, Ben Groskup will be joining us. That's in April as well. We also have 3 documentary films. One is called Devout and Dangerous. It's about the Berrigan brothers. Frida Berrigan, daughter of formerly father, then got married and was no longer father, and his brother Dan. Devout and Dangerous. Frida will join us for that, as well as the filmmaker. His name is Alex Wagner. Valentino's Ghost is another film we're going to be showing. It's about the portrayal of Arabs in film during the early 20th century. Filmmaker Michael Singh will join us. And finally, a film called The Earth's Greatest Enemy by Abby Martin. That will be May 1st, and Abby will also join us at the end of the film and take a Q&A. And it's about the U.S. military as the biggest climate change culprit on the entire planet. Let's see. Nothing else left but to bring back our beloved Bev Grant for a couple of songs. Hi, Bev.
Hi. I was very touched by your Vinegar Man story, and I'm going to sing a story that I wrote about a man named Jimmy Weekly, who he lived in West Virginia, and he was a miner all his life, and lived on Blair Mountain, which is rather famous story in U.S. history. And the Arch Coal Company came in and wanted to strip mine Blair Mountain the way it's doing with many of the other mountains in West Virginia. And Jimmy refused to sell him his land. He refused to move. And I just found his story, which I found on the internet, so remarkable. And if you see pictures of him, he's rather a wizened, smallish guy who obviously has had a tough life, but actually was able to step up and defend himself when all of the rest of his neighbors moved. He and his wife stayed. And so I was intrigued by the story and wrote this song. and had the occasion, after I had made a video about it, to hear from him through a friend he was sitting next to, looking at streaming the song that I had put up, and I got his approval. He liked the song. So it's called The Last Man on the Mountain, and it has a very singable chorus, which I won't hear you, but I would love to have you sing with me. Been James Weekly for 70 years. I've never been one to follow. My neighbors are gone. I still live on right here, Pigeon Roost Hollow. Sometimes I think I like to see Paris before I can't see anymore. But there's something that's keeping me here on this mountain that's always been outside my door. And I'm the last man on the mountain. Nobody lives here but me. Me, Jimmy Weekly, and the Arch Coal Company. 48 years we sat out on the porch, my wife sipping and I. There was work in the mine, good and bad time. We managed somehow to scrape by. Then Arch Coal Company bought up the land to blow the top right off Mount Blair. Well, the dust and the noise finally forced us inside, but we told them, oh, we ain't going nowhere. And I'm the last man on the mountain. Nobody lives here but me. Me, Jimmy Weekly, and the Arch Coal Company. Yeah, they offered us money like everyone else, thousands of dollars to sell, but you can't put a price on the footprints we've left here on this mountain we've loved so well. Well, now Sibby's gone, I'm staying on. It's lonesome without my best friend, but it starts my heart burning, thinking there's no returning to Pigeon Roost Hollow again. And the only thing standing between the company and Mount Blair is my puny old self and my will. So as long as I'm breathing, I won't be leaving. An arch cold can just go to hell. 'Cause I'm the last man on the mountain. Nobody lives here but me. Me, Jimmy Whitby, and the Arch Coal Company. Me, Jimmy Whitby. So, that's a story about an individual who really uses his own strength, his own power to fight the system, which I just love the concept of that, and found out later that there are people who have, young folks who have come to the mountain to save Blair Mountain because of its historical value. And that's who actually got in touch with me, sitting next to Jimmy, to express his appreciation for the song. He has since died, but the Arch Coal Company also went bankrupt, so they have not blown the top off of Blair Mountain. So happy ending, and it reminded me of this song that was written by somebody I was once singing at a demonstration at City Hall, and young man came up to me waving a cassette tape. He says, "You have to hear this, you have to hear this." And the song he was referring to was being blared out over speakers, at the demonstration. It was a union demonstration. And the artist's name is Labi Siffre. And Labi Siffre grew up in England, but was from, I forget which country in Africa. And he was a gay man. I think he's still alive, actually. He's a wonderful songwriter. And he wrote this song called Something Inside So Strong. And I was just so taken by it. It's one of those anthemic songs that just moves you. And so I learned it, and I had occasion to organize one of the People's Music Network Friday night concerts that year. So I taught it to Pete Seeger, who fell in love with the song and actually contacted Labi Siffre and invited him to the United States and sang with him. And I got to sing along at a function in Westchester County. So the song has become known to many folks worldwide. And I hope you'll feel inspired to sing along with this as well. It says, "There's something inside so strong, and I know that I can make it. Though you're doing me wrong, so wrong, there's something inside so strong." The higher you build your barrier, the taller I become. The farther you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can deny me, you can decide to turn your face away. No matter, 'cause there's something inside so strong, and I know that I can make it. Though you're doing me wrong, so wrong, thought that my pride was gone. Oh no, something inside so strong. Oh. my voice, the louder I will sing. You hide behind walls of Jericho, your lies will come tumbling. Deny my place in time, you squander worth that's mine. My light will shine so bright it will blind you. 'Cause there is something inside so strong, and I know that I can make it. And I know that I can make it. Though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. Oh no. Something inside so strong. Whoa. Something inside so strong. Brothers and sisters, but they insist we're just not good enough. Well, we know better. Just look them in the eyes and say, we're gonna do it anyway. Gonna do it anyway. Something inside so strong, and I know that I can make it. You're doing me wrong, so wrong. Thought that my pride was gone. Oh no. Something inside so strong. Oh, something inside so strong. Oh, something inside so strong.
Thank you, Bev. Something inside so strong. Really appreciate you and your years of activism, of warriorhood. I have sometimes a whole pile of books that have recently come to Community Church's attention, but I'm just going to talk about two of them. Anya Parimpil is someone who I've twice invited to come speak. She wrote a great book, and I just can't recommend it enough, and I've talked about it a couple of times before. It's called Corporate Coup, and it's about the U.S. theft of Venezuela and its riches that's coming to fruition as we speak. A wonderful presenter. Maybe her reluctance to speak is tempered by the fact that she has two very small children. But watch out for her, and we're hoping that she will speak. The other one is Charles Coe. This book is called All Sins Forgiven, Poems for My Parents. As some of you know, Charles was scheduled to speak last December and had to cancel because he was in the hospital, and we rescheduled for February 15th. He passed unexpectedly of complications from the surgery. And the whole city is celebrating him. There have been a number of events, and there's going to be another big one in April at the Boston Public Library. He was a wonderful author, poet, and presenter at Community Church, and we're going to miss him. And on February 15th, we will celebrate his life and his writings. If you ever want to be entertained, go to his Facebook page, which is there forever, we suppose. And he wrote a lot on that problematic platform, and he just did really well with it. And he had lots of followers that would like and would comment. You can just go through his Facebook writings and find plenty to fill an entire Sunday program, but he has several other books. And if anybody is interested in reading one of his poems at that event, it's in 2 weeks, please be in touch with me, and we will set you up with a poem or hand you a book, and you can pick a poem. Charles Coe on February 15th. Okay, so let's say hello to Dr. Fraad. We're so honored that you are with us Dr. Harriet Fraad. We've heard from Dr. Fraad's husband, Richard Wolff, a number of times now, and we invited Rick to join us over and over in the manner of Noam Chomsky and Howard Zinn, who both would speak at Community Church every year during the 80s and early 90s. And Richard Wolff has done that for us, and we're sort of in jest calling him our own Taylor Swift, because his presentations garner a lot of views, and it's a beautiful thing. So we would call you our own, what's his name? Kelsey Travis, Travis Kelsey.
Yes.
Just for the hell of it. Not that I follow football at all, but there you have it. Harriet Fraad is an American feminist activist, psychotherapist, and hypnotherapist in New York City. She has been practicing as a psychotherapist and hypnotherapist for 37 years. She is said to be a founding member of the feminist movement. And I'll put Bev Grant in that category too. And owed in part to her founding of the Women's Liberation Movement in 1968. She is the founder of the journal Rethinking Marxism and specializes in writing about the intersection between economics and psychology. Dr. Harriet Fraad produces the podcast Capitalism Hits Home with the help of Democracy at Work. Her articles, written work, and interviews discuss the mutual shaping and transformation of American economic, political, and personal life. Folks, we are so honored to have you on board with us. Dr. Harriet Fraad.
Hi. Hi. My talk today has three parts. One is about the fall of the American empire. The second is about its effect and its force in transforming personal life in the United States. And the third is new possibilities for policies and an economy that's built around sustaining life instead of accumulating capital. To begin with, the American empire was firmly established after World War II because all the other developed nations were decimated by the war. I mean, Russia was never one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and it lost 30 million people and was destroyed, as was Europe. China was still one of the poorest countries in the world, and in addition, it had been decimated by a savage invasion by Japan in World War II, and then a civil war in China, which wasn't won until 1950. So in 1950, America reigned supreme, while China was one of the poorest nations in the world. By 2025, China became the second richest, second most powerful nation in the world. And we're living in a changed world. This is the setting of the changed personal life and transformation we're experiencing. At the same time, the alliance that ruled the world, the G7 nations, which were America, Germany, France, Britain, Italy, Canada, and Japan, is now challenged. BRICS member states, and BRICS is an organization that started with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, where it got the name BRICS, now has many other nations and many other, even further others who are applying to be part of BRICS, which is an alternative alliance to the G7. And that alliance represents 45% of the world's population, whereas the G7, although wealthier, are an alliance of only 10% of the world's population. The world is changing, and the US empire and its allies no longer have uncontested domination in the world, something Trump seems to be denying, but is nonetheless the case. So I'm going to discuss how this happened and how it affected enormous changes in Americans' personal life. In the 1970s, fast jet travel, inventions like the computer and the fax allowed US corporations to shift the best paying manufacturing jobs to countries like China, India, and Pakistan with far lower salaries, few or weak ecological protections, and few benefits for its workers. That way they could make even more money than they had before. Now, US manufacturing jobs were overwhelmingly male, and they were well paid because unions had struggled for a long time, including the CIO, to establish living wages that provided a decent life plus health insurance and benefits. Well, those jobs were outsourced in order to make more money for rich corporations. Other nations, like the Scandinavian nations or France and Germany, outlawed outsourcing of jobs. Now, they were able to do that because they had powerful socialist and communist unions that fought for workers' rights. Well, the United States, after World War II, when our closest ally was Russia and Stalin was referred to as Uncle Joe in the newspapers, the United States did not want left influence. FDR had many socialists and communists in his government, including Frances Perkins, an outspoken socialist and the first female cabinet member in charge of labor, and policies. The Communist Party's slogan at the time was "Communism, the New Americanism." Corporations were threatened. FDR could go to his rich buddies and say to them, I'm going to tax you at 96.8% because otherwise the movement that's going on out there, the socialist and communist movements, are going to take your wealth. So you'd better let me tax it or you won't have it at all. And so he did, which allowed him to give Social Security rights and hire 11 million workers to do everything from art to building dams and roads and so on. And in a very socialistic way, well, corporations were threatened because their primacy was threatened. Unrestrained capitalism was certainly threatened. That was taken care of through the anti-communist purges of the 1950s under Congress's House of Un-American Activities Committee, headed by Joseph McCarthy. And they equated joining the Communist Party with joining an organization devoted to destroying the United States. That wasn't true. It wasn't in any of their writings or preachings, but nonetheless, they managed to do that. And on that basis, had purges of thousands of people, many of whom were deported, more lost their jobs and their livelihoods and were smeared. Many were jailed. And so they wrecked the socialist and communist movements, which was a shame for American workers because the most militant people were often communists or socialists who believed that workers should have rights and even ownership in some cases. And they were the spark of the unions. So by throwing out the socialist communists and the leftists as ostensible fellow travelers, the union movement went from a militant movement with more than a third of America's workers in 1950 to what it is now, although it is increasing. Now it has 10% of American workers. And so they didn't have and they didn't try to stop outsourcing. like Germany and the Scandinavian countries and France. That was a real problem. The United States corporations that made billions of dollars by exporting and outsourcing American jobs used some of their billions to buy our elections because they paid to elect representatives that served their interests. And they were allowed to. The US is quite unique in terms of the developed world in allowing private money in elections. In France, Sarkozy's going to jail because he took private money. They're only allowed to have posters. They can't pay for radio time. They can't pay for TV time. I was in France one year during an election where they had 8 or 10 parties. There were a lot of parties where each got the same amount of time to talk about their message. Very different from what Greg Palast in a very smart article once called the best democracy money can buy. So wealth became wildly unequal in this country. In 1970, we were the most egalitarian nation in the Western developed world. Now we are the least egalitarian developed nation in the world. Well, what happened here to transform families? That's the other part of the talk I'm giving. Well, the old family, in the old family that was overwhelmingly white, but America was 83% white in 1970, consisted of a wage-earning male who earned a family wage that paid for dependent wives and children. So men were in charge of work outside the home, and women were in charge of the emotional labor of making their family feel good, the social labor of connecting their family with relatives and friends, the child care, and the domestic labor, the cooking, the cleaning, and maintaining of their homes. Well, that had to change. Once jobs were outsourced, white males could not earn family wages. White manufacturing jobs that had been well paid were outsourced, and women had to join their Black sisters in the workforce. Well, that put a huge strain on personal life because there was no one whose full job was attending to people's emotional, social, and domestic needs and the care of their children. And this is a tragedy because family was the social safety net for Americans. And we didn't have the kind of supports that, let's say, France and Germany have with up to 5-year maternity leaves, and that Norway and the Scandinavian countries have, which Norway has mandatory paternity leave so that men can't get extra credit by staying at work. And they don't have after school programs that are free or early childhood care that's free that supported families. It was women who supported families, and they weren't there to support families. And Americans have not yet really built the sustaining alternatives. So things are destabilized. And what happened in the wake of that destabilization is the Republicans and Democrats, who both have the same wealthy donors, or most of them, or many of them, had to capture votes. The Republicans captured the votes through a very clever transference and projection. They took white men's rage at their jobs being taken away to foreign countries and said it was the immigrants' fault. These foreigners have taken your jobs. And Trump said, and these are his words, "I am your retribution." So the revenge for not having primacy at home and at work, and transferred their hatred onto foreign countries like China and foreigners like immigrants. And that was quite successful. They captured a lot of white men's rage at being dispossessed from their previous primacy through those false premises. They also talked about how Trump was arranging that they would get their jobs back. They would make America great again. Well, how were they going to do that? Well, they were going to do that through tariffs, which Trump said would create manufacturing jobs here. Actually, in 2025 and the years and 2024, when after Trump got in, they've lost over 68,000 manufacturing jobs. And of course they have. It costs billions of dollars to transfer manufacturing here. And with ICE doing what they're doing, there's instability everywhere. And they don't want to transfer into an unstable political environment and pay billions of dollars. That's ridiculous. Also, Trump promised, I'll make it great again. I'll lower the prices like they used to be. Not only will men be primary, but I will lower the prices. But actually, inflation has continued because we have had to pay, ordinary Americans pay the price of those tariffs. Well, that hasn't panned out, but it was promised, and it got a lot of white enraged men and some Black and Hispanic men wanting to recapture their primacy at home through their higher wages and women's dependency. Well, this hasn't worked out. Women have had to work outside the home in order to survive with their families. And American women have not wanted to do a second shift of housework, childcare, emotional care, and social connection when they get home. Now that American women were in the labor force, they wanted men to be in the domestic force. That hasn't worked out well. A lot of American men who had been taught that their manliness had to do with their wages feel unmanned, and they have demanded a lot more work from their wives, sex work and emotional work. That hasn't gone over well. American women don't want it. 70% of American divorces are initiated by women. And divorces are now more numerous than marriages. About 70%, as it turns out, of marriages end in either legal or informal separation or divorce. The divorce statistics are maybe the high 60s, but if you count the informal divorces, because the average divorce costs between $10,000 and $20,000. So a lot of people don't do that. Instead, they make an agreement and separate. And that often leaves women and children impoverished because men don't necessarily pay what they promise and often start other families. And also their wages aren't very good. And so marriages have broken down. For the first time in the United States, the majority of American women are single and by choice. The family, which was the social safety net for Americans, we didn't have very good social safety nets outside, those are gone for a lot of people. And people are really upset. And although the Republicans turned a lot of white men's rage against immigrants and also against women and blacks. I should mention that one of the things that happened, since neither Republicans, excuse me, nor the Democrats, who have similar wealthy donors, wanted to emphasize class issues, saying to the mass of workers, you're being ripped off. They took your job so they could make more money. Too bad for you. They're the problem, not immigrants, not the Chinese who are trying to build their own economy. No, it's the corporations. But that would be a class conscious message, which they didn't want. The Democrats also wanted to avoid a class conscious message. So they said the problem is we need justice for all races. We need justice for Black people in America and for women. Now, racism and sexism were and are big in the United States. But class is also very important, and they neglected it. However, many of the enraged white men were persuaded by the Republicans that it was Black people and women who were taking their jobs, so they used the racism and the sexism to exalt somebody like Donald Trump, a rapist, a sexist, and a racist, and they evaded the class issue. Well, class only, because of the anti-communist repression, class was repressed in the United States. It only came back to consciousness in 2011 with the Occupy movement and their slogan about the 1% and the 99%. However, Obama disbanded those settlements around Occupy 3 months after Occupy started. They were all wiped out by the governments of wherever they were. No accident, because he campaigned as a brown person who would somehow do justice economically, but of course he didn't. He bailed out the banks instead of the subprime mortgage borrowers, and therefore made Blacks even poorer in the United States. But the Occupy message, which was only 3 months of the 1% versus the 99%, really took. And now things are very much in transition in the United States. Neither the Democrats nor the Republicans look like they will solve the problems the mass of Americans suffer. And in addition, Trump's Gestapo-like ICE has terrified people. The fact that they recently killed 2 respectable white people in Minneapolis, people who were assigned to recording ICE activities. And of course, ICE could have people who got into the committee meetings of who's going to do what. And they killed both of those people, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, a hardworking VA nurse, Alex Preddy, and a mother of 3 and a poet, Renee Good. In addition, Trump has lost 300,000 government jobs, so he's not bringing the jobs he promised, and manufacturing is not back in the United States. And in the midst of this, there's a problem, a real problem that people are experiencing. And that's the last part of my talk, which is the hope part. Very important to have a hope. And because in the midst of this debacle, a solution is coming up. Americans are banding together in protests as we haven't for about 75 years since the outsurge, the big increase around ending the war in Vietnam and the civil rights movement. Movements like No Kings gather momentum. They're talking about a general strike of the whole country, March 28th. Every week, there are demonstrations in New York and other cities. The forces of connection, of kindness, of solidarity with all people, including immigrants and people of color, in Minneapolis is a kind of beacon of kindness for this country. And people realizing that the Democrats and Republicans have largely sold them out are flocking to the Democratic Socialists, who have won in New York City, the biggest city, or among the biggest cities in the United States, maybe LA and New York, 8.5 million people, a socialist one. Bernie Sanders is a hero socialist from Vermont. Greg Caesar won in Texas, and these are just big offices. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won in New York, and Rashida Tlaib in Michigan. Hundreds more socialists have been elected across this country, and some candidates, like Graham Preston in Maine, are looking very strong, even against an established Republican who pretends to be a liberal, Susan Collins. So that those voters, particularly young voters, who are disgusted and didn't feel that either party represented what they needed, are now flocking to the Democratic Socialists. Hundreds of thousands of young people who never even registered because it wasn't worth it have voted for Mamdani and for AOC before them. They connect and they make restorative bonds of the purpose of a society and an economy based on sustaining life instead of accumulating capital. A very, very important change. So that as the US empire is collapsing and Trump and the Republicans are disillusioning many followers while they don't deliver and deliver violence, a movement is starting and getting stronger and stronger based on hope, kindness, connection in the Democratic Socialists. And that's the hope part of my talk. The end. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Harriet. We're going to have one final song from Bev, and then we'll have a Q&A. But I want to first, just a couple of things. I want to thank Matt Andrews, who is a member of the church and a former board member as well, for suggesting that we invite Dr. Fraad to address us this morning. Thank you, Matt. And just as a way of telling you all that our program is driven by your suggestions for speakers to contact and to join us. Join us, become a member, sign the book, and find out about all the perks and benefits of being a member of Community Church. The other thing I wanted to say is that next week is a change. You have to be on top of things that sometimes change quickly. Our presenter next week is named Jeff Kaufman. Jeff is an amazing voice, a singer like you wouldn't believe. He was for a long time the head shantyman at the Mystic Seaport Museum, where he held forth for about 25 years, is now retired, but still is a huge voice of leadership on the street and in the cafes and coffee houses, and he will lead an entire program of song next Sunday. It's a quick change that he was able to fill for us. And so join us for Jeff Kaufman next week. I want to also remind you all of the standouts that we are, many of us, a part of. Every Tuesday at the Israeli Embassy, which is right in Government Center at noon, and every Wednesday in Burlington at the ICE headquarters there. It's been happening for months now, and it's a pretty large gathering. It was canceled last week because of the snow, but keep on keeping on with the people who are doing that, including our own affiliate minister, Reverend John Gibbons, who is one of the lead organizers of that standout. Finally, we rely on your generosity and largesse to keep this thing called Community Church going. Our past, which we are reaching towards in emphasizing our 105 years worth of archives that are on the 5th floor of the building, that we will be paying a special attention to in upcoming years, because Jerry Kaplan, just an amazing member who is a volunteer here 3 days a week, will be focusing his efforts on our own archives for the next couple of years, and I will be his faithful lieutenant. He's a professional, skilled archivist and collector. If you want to find out more about helping us make that happen, be in touch. I'll tell you all about it. I'm deep into it. Donate. There's a basket back there, and there's also a website, communitychurchofboston.org, where you can find a credit card or a PayPal function to help us with. Although we've been lately pretty disheartened with PayPal and what it is and what it's all about, and are looking for other ways to make it easy for you to contribute online. Okay, Bev, thank you so much for being with us. I remember the song, the classic song of Bev's that's called "We Were There," that she sang the last time we did a program about the Triangle waist shirt disaster. And another one I think she's going to sing, but it's up to her. I had asked her for "Together We Can Move Mountains." Is that the one we have online, or whatever you want, Bev? I'm sorry
Together We Can Move Mountains is the one I have online.
Thank you, Bev.
I want to thank you, Harriet.
Oh, you're welcome.
I also joined the women's movement around 1967 in New York, and been struggling and learning about all those different things. But on top of that class, that made a big difference in my life when I understood my own background with a class consciousness. And hopefully, I'd love to meet you sometime.
Thank you. You know, really in 68, the movement had a lot of class consciousness, but Gloria Steinem is a CIA agent, which has been revealed, and successfully maneuvered the movement into a gender-only movement, excising class.
I left it at that point.
Yeah, and that was she got Ms. Magazine, and we were so naive. We never thought, wow, wait a minute, no ads. Who's paying? No.
Right.
We just thought how great. We were so naive then. And so that it was class was kind of marginalized in the movement after that.
Yeah. But I was to the left of that. I was in New York Radical Women.
Yeah.
And
you put out notes from the first year, 1968, which was full of class conscious articles.
Right. I have some photos in that, actually. But anyway, this is a song that goes back to 1975, and it's one of those songs that I never have stopped singing, even though I might have gotten tired of it, but it's like back. And I hope you'll join in. It says, "Together we can move mountains, alone we can't move at all." And it came out of the Co-op City tenant strike back in the 70s. I wrote the song in 75, where 64,000 people were on strike. And it's hard to say strike because they were co-op owners, but they were striking against management and the fees and all of that kind of stuff. So this young Puerto Rican, I was asked to write music for it, and a young Puerto Rican woman who was on screen, I was watching footage, she made this statement, "Together we can move mountains." And I said, "Oh, that sounds like Mao Zedong." So not Mao, Ho Chi Minh. So this is what came out of it. Together we can move mountains, alone We can't move at all. Together we can move mountains. Easy chords. Oh, we can't move at all. You know, people, sometimes we despair when we think we're alone. Nothing's gonna change. We get stepped on, abused, ignored and confused, made to suffer and told where to blame. But together we can move mountains. Oh, we can't move at all. I'd say together we can move mountains. Oh, we can't move at all. Well, now the ones who get rich while we scrape to get by, they know our unity, it means their defeat. So they set us against one another, sister and brother, color against color. They're keeping us weak. You know, they're keeping us weak. But together we can move mountains. Oh, we can move it all. I say together we can move mountains. Oh, we can move it all. From the smallest seed, a mighty tree can grow. With its roots planted firmly in the ground, we've got to reach for the sun. Only then will we know all the love and the beauty and the life to be found, because together we can move mountains. I'll say together we can move mountains. Together we can move mountains. Oh, we can move at all.
Thank you, Bev. Just
You're
powerful,
welcome.
powerful song for our movement. Let's see if we have some questions. First, I want to invite both of you to offer suggestions, either out loud or just to email me, about presenters that'll bring into focus the feminist movement of today. We're longing to hear, hungry to hear more. And I want to open the floor or the Zoom for any questions, either for Dr. Fraad or for Bev Grant.
Or maybe protests, not questions. Who knows?
Well, I'd like to say one thing about that I really find encouraging is all of the music that's coming out of this movement today. I mean, it's just overflowing. If you get on the right algorithm on Instagram, I get this constant feed of protest music from young singer-songwriters who back in my day were saying things like, oh no, I can't sing a protest song at a gig because I might offend somebody. Well, that's really changed. And there's just this wealth of words and music coming out. I would recommend Carsey Blanton.
Yeah.
I would recommend Jesse Wells.
Yeah.
And there are just countless numbers of them. And look them up. They make you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add to that, Bev, that there's two or three of them that came out of this thing that's called Village Harmony in Vermont. Larry Gordon was the director of that, and these have become really wonderful movement song leaders on the streets in places like Minneapolis and Chicago.
And brass bands.
Brass
I
bands.
mean, singing, which side are you on? It
Yeah,
warms my heart.
we've
Also,
had some.
I hope that people won't just restrict themselves to questions. Maybe they have reactions
Information.
that they want to share. That's okay.
Yeah.
We have Karen right here. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Hello. Oh, that was beautiful, both of you. Thank you so much. I wonder if you have heard of this right-wing conspiracy theory that some of my friends subscribe to, that like the deep state created the feminist movement for the purpose of undermining and destabilizing the family unit, thus making people more dependent upon the government, and then ultimately with the idea of bringing about like one world government.
One world what?
Like a one world government.
I see.
Oh, let me good.
Sorry if that's a little much, but
No, it makes sense. Look, people want to blame something, and the idea that there's some kind of deep state, or that the feminist movement, which is of course not one movement, but so many ideas, has an ulterior motive, is just silly. There's all kinds of women who participated in the feminist movement for all kinds of reasons. These conspiracies, as it turns out from Sasha Riley's revelations about Donald Trump and the rape and murder of children by these rich men, that's who's doing these things, but not for any other purpose than their own satisfaction and power. Anyway, I'm not surprised that they're doing that.
The CIA agents of this day and age in the movement trying to co-opt and own.
Yeah.
How do we detect them?
You believe what you believe, and you point out the craziness of it. That's all. That you name it as a conspiracy theory within the complexity of human organizations.
You've got two hands raised online, Dean.
Oh, okay. Lynn, how are you? Go ahead.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you. I feel there's echo, or you okay? Okay, yes. How do we get the Vatican Nation, who's really responsible for a lot of this? Well, when they killed Jesus and then on from there, the Vatican Nation, it turns out these evil ones actually started Big Pharma, okay, man-made drugs. And if you follow the man-made drugs and the Vatican and the abuse inside, what happened through it, you go to Kevin Annett, Everybody go to Kevin, Annett. He's a defrock priest, fantastic author, dean, fantastic. He's from Ireland, and he's got all the information on the dark side. I mean, satanic ritual, I mean, horrors that happen through the Catholic takeover of indigenous cultures worldwide, and properties tied to the UK and the, you know, the I don't know, white supremacists, whatever you want to call it. And anyway, it turns out that Bayer bought Auschwitz, and then actually bought the properties for Hitler, and actually started methamphetamines too. And the top drugs for big pharma, let's see, the top 50, you go to Dr. Peter Bregan. He's got a background with forensics. And the top 50 drugs given out, especially if they're for anxiety or depression, have suicide and homicide listed as side effects. So all they got to do is tweak these kids, and they got them right under their thumb to do horrendous crap. Anyway, so I just wanted to get that out there. And I've had a dream how to get the Vatican Nation, all the churches, to go to interfaith. There's a group of teachers inside of Israel, actually, that started, I call them the real Christians and real spiritual ones that can't really care about, you know, Mother Earth and people. They're Baha'is, and they were Baha'is I was working with the AFT, American Federation of Teachers. So, you know, they know about the Waldorf schools, Montessori and what have you, but they've come to interfaith with Baha'i, Christians, Muslims, and Jews. They knew, the teachers, you know, obvious, it's like the librarians. They're like, hey, come on, this is nuts. And they started interfaith hand-to-hand schools, because they know if you teach the kids each other's language and their cultures and how to play together, music, Bev. Playing for Change, Bev, is really important contact to help this happen. Get with Playing for Change, Bev.com, playingforchange.com. They're really important. And the Global Sound Healing Institute, critical movers and shakers of lifting our paradigm into heaven on earth, which is really harmony everywhere.
Lynn, could you put these in the chat for us? And is there a question?
Yes, I just
Thanks.
wanted to get with Harriet, because the president of the American Board of Hypnotherapy in 1999 wrote the foreword to my first book. I was a registered nurse in 2 countries, and I need to talk to you about healing bases. I can't seem to get the information out that all humans, red, yellow, black, and white, if you're angry, upset, your answers are inside your soul grid. We are cut off from our direct contact with our intergalactic soul energies. And we're cut off, and it wrecks your chakra system, and it wrecks our contact. And they're going the other way with AI, and we're up, you know, do you know, I mean, they want robots to take over, and even robot pets, which are making our soul energy connections for what we can really do together as a species. They're just destroying us individually and collectively with poisonous programmed thought forms and poisons in the air, land, sea, water, and air. And with these
Thank
guys
you,
are
Lynn.
robots. So I need to talk to you, though, Harriet, about get in touch with me about what I've seen, what we can do to these healing bases open 24/7.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Okay.
Watch.
Any response from
1975,
either Harriet or Bev?
Okay, thank you. Angel therapy, all kinds of good stuff.
Thanks, Lynn.
Really good, really good. Okay, thank you.
And people don't have to have questions. Maybe they have reactions to share.
I believe that Matthew, is that Matt? Hi, Matt. Join us.
Talk,
Hi,
Matt.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can hear you.
Hi. Okay. Thanks so much. I'm really glad that Harriet and Bev were able to join us this Sunday morning, and I suggested the connection to Dean because I've been listening to the podcast, Capitalism Hits Home. So I definitely recommend that to anybody here who liked the talk. It's a really unique perspective, I think, connecting economic analysis with things that often are limited to interpersonal perspectives. There was one episode in particular that, and I went back and tried to find it, must have been like a year ago, I haven't found it, where you talk about how to build a healthy community. and you took, and I don't think you created, I'm trying to remember this episode from like a year ago, but I think you had, were analyzing someone who had taken basically a model kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous, but
Yes,
kind of made it more secular and applicable to other kinds
that's
of
right.
communities. And I thought that was so amazing. I thought, oh, this would be really spot on for the community church as a community, and maybe more in general, just for kind of activist groups where there is always kind of a level of distrust. And you mentioned earlier this CIA influence in the women's movement. An earlier question talked about right-wing conspiracy theories. Like, how do we build solidarity in a context of honest disagreement plus these kinds of insidious shadowy influences that are out to tear us down as well.
Well,
If we could have a structure maybe for understanding how to build a healthy community, that might be something we could bring into the church to
I think it's great.
strengthen our community.
That's a good point. Look, Alcoholics Anonymous is the biggest organization in the United States. Every little town has an Alcoholics Anonymous. And although they don't talk about it that way, Alcoholics Anonymous is basically built around socialist or communist principles. Nobody's making any money off it. People are elected to positions within the organization because they've been there and they've helped. And there is no hierarchy. And everyone is welcome and allowed to speak as long as they acknowledge that they have a problem. And if you take those 12 steps and change them, instead of taking only a personal moral inventory, step 4, if you take a moral inventory of this country and your city, what are we doing? And the basic values are, which I think are very important. Should we base our economy and our society around sustaining life or around accumulating capital? And unfortunately, our society is built around accumulating capital and idolizing people who have accumulated a lot of capital, even if they've gotten it through their parents, like Trump. I'm rich, as if that's an attribute, that I think if we followed the 12 steps and changed them a little bit, but admitted people and let them speak and treated people as equals and let them find in their agendas, including political agendas. One of the great strengths of the women's movement in its beginnings was we found the tactic of consciousness raising. We got our issues from people talking about their lives and what bothered them. And I remember in the early movement making one proposal for our group, that everyone is welcome unless they have all the answers for us and know just what we should do, then they have to get out right away. That people have to be respected for their contributions, and that we can find the agenda together based on what we're dealing with. And their AA is a good model. We don't have to have any higher power that's necessary except the higher power of us getting together.
I think that, could I say one thing?
That's your song, Bev.
The personal is political. That was one of the things that really stuck with me all these years, which came out of the women's movement.
It did, but just because you personally make a lot of money, you're not helping the poor. I mean, some of that got confused by the capitalist
okay. But for me, it was to understand my own reality and to, feel authenticated for the fact that I was oppressed as a woman.
Yes.
And,
Americans are oppressed. Most Americans are oppressed. The mass of Americans are terribly oppressed, financially and in every other way. And one of the reasons that people are fighting back in places like Minneapolis is they feel helpless. And then when they see these unaccountable forces coming in and roughing them up, under the pretext that they're getting rid of dangerous criminals by arresting 5-year-olds. The hypocrisy is so glaring that people are finally galvanized. In that way, Trump has really not tried to, but he succeeded in helping organize a mass movement. Because it's so bald in its selfish brutality. Anyway, I do think that I wrote an article, 12 Steps to a Revolution, about that. If you can't find it, email me, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Thank you, Harriet. I'll look for it. If I can find it on Google, I'll put it in the chat.
Great, thanks.
That sounds great. Thank you all. Thank you, Matt, for that question. We have Tilly Ruth. Hi, Tilly Ruth. Join us.
Tilly, speak up.
There you are. You need to unmute, Tilly, please.
Hi, Tilly, unmute.
Unmute. Unmute so we can hear you, Tilly.
Unmuted.
There you are.
Oh, good.
I have one thing to say about, I'm AA or communist. I was a communist, or still am in some ways. But one of my year in the equivalent of a bar mitzvah, being Jewish, because I was raised in the South, so we'll talk about race and all that stuff. But in the Old Testament, the prophet Micah said, "Man, what is required of thee but to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God?" And what is that last one? Which is the one I have trouble with, and I think most people do, which means you don't know it all. I want to say, Dee knows I was married at community church. So was my brother, and this is umpteen years ago. And we were married there because at community church you could have a nice wedding service of however you wished it, but they didn't care whether you were both of the same faith or whether what your ethnicity was or whatever. And so I still appreciate community church. I'm in walking distance, but no, I can't walk very much anymore. But I wanted to do that piece of Micah, the prophet, because that is essential. How do you view people, and how do you view your family? How do you view how do you say? Yeah, me and my sister and brother are really crazy. Well, my brother is no longer here, but we were married once and married over 50 years. And I'm not saying whether anybody did something wrong during that time, but we stayed together and a family. And I have wonderful kids and grandkids, and we have to teach them to love the earth. And by the way, that my racist father, etc., I was raised, and this is over 90 years ago, but we were living in Florida, and we had solar hot water. Okay? And so it's not a new piece. The energy is there. We can use it. We don't have to make money out of it.
That's
But
nice.
the other thing I want to say right now is the key one, which is the problem of affordability of people who can't afford food, they can't afford decent housing, and then the whole question of having good education that will encourages kids. So, but not just good education, but the old New Deal pieces of can kids do stuff after school, or and can boys use their energy. And, where I live here in Boston in the South End, there near me is a small park where they changed over what had been a basketball court with hoops for a dog walk court. And that drives me completely nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm going to shut up. Thank you, Dean, for letting me wander. Take care.
Do
Hey,
justice.
Dean, you need to come by and bring me a couple of pounds of coffee.
I'd be glad to. You're one of my most addicted customers, Tilly Teixeira. In case people don't know, I also import coffee from El Salvador and sell it at farmers markets in the city of Boston. And both Harriet and Bev mentioned it to me in an email, and I'll send you a couple pounds of coffee if you're so inclined. I'd be glad to, as part of our just deep gratitude to you for being with us this morning. We have, and I love that poetry of what Tilly said. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. And I say God proudly, not because I believe or don't believe. I think for me it's just a matter of not a very important question. I know what my God is. My God is my life and our community and our planet. That's all. I know how to say it, and I can say it in a loud voice, which the UU church next door won't even say it because of some Jewish thing that they have to put a stick through the zero, the O in the God, because you can't say it out loud. I'm not quite sure. Somebody needs to explain that to me. But anyway, we have Calvin Airy here who wants to have some words with you folks.
Well, thank you very much. When Bev was singing that song about removing the mountains, I couldn't help but remember back one of the little red books by Mao Zedong that was very popular back in the late 60s and 70s. There was a story in there about the old man that removed the mountain. And briefly what it was there was a mountain blocking his view, a beautiful view of the sea on the other side of the mountain. And so one day he went out there with a bucket and a shovel and filled up the bucket with dirt, brought it around to the back of his house, dumped it on the ground, and went back and got another bucket. And after he had been doing this for a while, his neighbors were astounded and just laughing at what he was doing. They asked him, what do you think you're doing? And he told them he was removing that mountain that was blocking his view of this wonderful view on the other side. And he went on to explain that, when he knew he couldn't remove the mountain all by himself, but he had children and relatives, and his children would have children, and if they all continued the process, they could remove that mountain. That was that tale by Mao Zedong is so much like that song that together we can accomplish great things. Alone, not so much. Thank you.
Just don't tell the guy in the song that was trying to keep his mountain from being removed. Have we anyone else, or are we getting hungry enough that we want to enjoy Luis Guzman's beautiful hot chicken soup that is waiting for us?
That sounds good.
Oh, yes.
I hesitate to even repeat this absurd theory, but Naomi Wolf, who rose to prominence in the 90s as a feminist, she's in her 60s now and should know better, but she actually wrote something about how white liberal women are opposing terrorist, well, she doesn't consider them terrorists, entities like ICE, because they have some sort of sexual frustration, and they desire to confront real masculine forces like these ICE agents, and that the average liberal man is too estrogenized to satisfy them. And I mean, I hate to even speak these words because it's so ridiculous, but I was wondering how how have we come to be so anti-intellectual in the feminist movement? I'm kind of active in some feminist organizations on Facebook, and there are other similar type theories put out by women who have no sense of class struggle or anything like that, and they're coming up with these bizarre psychological theories to pathologize those of us who oppose things like ICE and the border patrol industry and the military industrial complex generally. Thank you.
Well, there is a lot of emphasis on death and destruction in male childhood and in men. And that is hardly sexy for most women. But what they're eulogizing is a pattern that starts with little boys. If you go into the boys section, you find soldiers, you find rock'em sock'em robots, you find toy guns. When I went to France, their toy stores don't have guns for boys or girls. That there is a sense that we are losing masculinity when we're losing a level of violence and domination. That's what I say about the importance, which was really articulated first by Amaya Perez Orozco in Feminist Subversion of the Economy. That's her book. But in sustaining life rather than accumulating wealth and through domination. Because the basic capitalist organization is you work for me and you make more money for me than I give you. So I take it and I get wealthy at your expense. And that whole ascendancy and domination was associated with traditional masculinity. That's something that feminists have tried to undo, and I am one of them, because it's a biophilic attitude.
Yes, but do you have a sense of why you would not understand that that's where most of us are coming from? They're trying to pathologize white liberal women. I don't know if you heard it, but they're talking about, there have been more than one editorial written about so-called wine moms, and how basically dismissing us as a serious force in the movement
well, of
against
course. The stronger women get in demanding a safe and sustaining economy, the more that we will be attacked by people who are the opposite of that, because they don't like those values of sustaining life. And I think that one of the things feminists have given me is the sense that although feminists have never gone over, what you learn from taking care of vulnerable lives, what you learn from an orientation towards motherhood and sustaining life instead of destroying it is very important. And those values are very important. And in that way, we are ahead. And people who want to reassert male supremacy say that we're just neurotics. Well, they can say whatever they want. We are getting more and more proud of ourselves and ourselves as women, that we do have one foot in sustaining life, because we're brought up to think we'll have kids and we ought to be nice to people and we ought to be polite. And the idea of masculinity, of being this rude domination, is something we should fight. And so, I disagree with that, and I think it's asserted because they're losing.
I agree.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm going to go down this Zoom list. Thanks for joining us, Frank Araiza, of course, Bev and Harriet, and Community Church of Boston. Thank you for being with us. Richard Burrell, Daniel the Bagel Man, Tilly Ruth, always great to see you. Probably longest time member of anybody in this congregation. Alvin Foster, thank you. Rebecca Harrison from Ithaca, thank you for being with us. Again, Ernie and Faye Strigler. Hey, Faye, thank you so much. And Janine Carter and Jennifer O'Connell and John German and Matthew, that would be Matthew Andrews, and Orlando Espinal and Rick, and dozens of others on our YouTube channel. Thank you for being with us. Join us again on any Sunday upcoming until the month of first week of June is our last one, and we're always here. We're ready to receive you and join as a part of our community, either physically or from afar. It doesn't matter. You're welcome here. Sisters, now our meeting is over. Sisters, we must part. Sisters, we'll be gone, but I'll love you in my heart. And we'll land on the shore, and we'll land on the shore, and we'll land on the shore and be safe forevermore. Brothers, now our meeting is over. Brothers, we must part. Brothers will be gone, but I will love you in my heart. And we'll land on the shore, and we'll land on the shore, and we'll land on the shore and be safe forevermore.